Adofo mesanso ema munyina akwa ba de ba Ghanatube so odofo mamunim say Ghanatube lenyam ba ye to fresh and need nyina brem se munyina munje na monhwe na munti odofo disi amene okasa no governor of the Bank of Ghana chese or the latest update asanso aba mede nyina brem e o Ghanatube mamunim say disi asenya Ghana e kone de eye dollar rate na ade na wo say tembia no Bank of Ghana Central Bank no also the latest update every Ghana phone na who send a sick assembly korofo governor of the Bank of Ghana also the latest update about concerning a sick assembly for my call na yanko just answer nyina enchiremu e Ghanatube na emra sisia.
You look at the currency market, we begin from there this afternoon. The city has begun recovering some of the losses it recorded against the dollar last week on both the interbank and forex markets. This comes after the Bank of Ghana increases dollar supply to the market in recent days. More details in the following report.
Earlier this week, the dollar was going for about 10 Ghana cedis, 70 pesos, when it comes to the rates that most of the commercial banks were offering to their clients when it comes to transactions. However, it has made some marginal gains and is currently selling at around 10 Ghana cedis, 30 pesos. On the Forex Bureau market, it went up by as much as 13 Ghana cedis to $1. However, over the past 2 working days, it has made some strong recovery and is going for 12 Ghana cedis, 30 pesos. Some of the commercial banks have told Joy Business that the pressure last week was fueled by the sudden spike in dollar demand by businesses due to the recent claims by President John Mahama that the true value of the Ghana cedi could be around 10 to 12 Ghana cedis. Therefore, most of them were trying to buy more dollars now against future depreciation of the Ghana cedi. Also, some offshore investors were redeeming their investment, resulting in that depreciation for last week. But for many, the critical question here is that can we just depend purely on market forces for the cedi's stability against the dollar? Or the Bank of Ghana may always have to step in with dollar support to try and normalize things.
Adofo enche bia na John Dramani ma beka chen says sia no omo ye bibia everything possible. Bank of Ghana any ay ato forcing mo finance minister no omo ye bibia se na be a omo behu the true value of the Ghana cedi against the dollar. Enti no omo ye sia no mo ka say e around 10 to 12 Ghana cedis as against the dollar. Enti the sia no sure Bank of Ghana any finance minister no mo ye everything possible say na be on behu the true value of your Ghana cedi no against the dollar. Therefore, the sia no sure the true value of the Ghana cedi against the dollar and now 10 to 12 Ghana cedis. Therefore, when a good news Governor of the Bank of Ghana or the about say Ghana for nyina bon OCE just obo adwumaden pa ono your finance minister of way and breaking news am so be nyina bro right from Central Bank of Ghana. Governor of the Bank of Ghana or the about so be nyina bro e wo Ghanatube but for my call na santu ansem nyina so embra tisia e wo Ghanatube so.
All right, interesting questions in that report. We'll dig into that later in the bulletin. But economist Professor Godfrey Bokpin is urging the government to maintain strict control over its spending whilst continuing efforts to boost revenue. Despite the recent credit rating upgrade by Fitch Ratings, the agency raised Ghana's long-term foreign currency issuer default rating from restricted default to B- with a stable outlook. Speaking on PM Express with Evans Mensah, Professor Bokpin cautioned against any rush to the international markets for borrowing once the current IMF program concludes.
Reopening the market from the domestic point of view is more critical. Okay. It's more, for me, that should be more of a priority than the international capital market, because if you look at the way we have used the international capital market in shoring up our international reserves over the years, that reason is no longer relevant. So the rush to go for FX from the international capital market remains mute, given where our reserves are right now, and also the drive to build reserves. But I think more importantly, let's look at the domestic market. Let's extend the yield curve. That way, it gives us leverage. Because the idea is that this will be cedi denominated. If you have to go to the international capital market let's say towards the end of this year, or even next year, chances are that you could be paying something slightly higher. Okay, and that is something that we should be mindful. Even though B- is very good, it's still below investment grade. Okay, so there's a potential that there could be default going forward. And we said it on your network here. It's somewhere early part of 2022 that normally once you declare a preemptive debt restructuring, it will take you less than 4 years before the market will receive you favorably. And also it's about weighing them. So I think that there shouldn't be a rush necessary to go to the international.
Out of 4 big questions that this year, no Bibisa Ghana for now. More fast answers in fandom me our comment section when I'm making Kanina model 4. Big question they say finance minister no and the governor of the Bank of Ghana no omu Jumadiana just said see no nkakran we are trying to discover the true value of the Ghana cedi no against the dollar. Just say Osha and then I'm 10 to 12 Ghana cedis. See no Ubia Ebu same amaye governor of the Bank of Ghana and the finance minister. And see no just a Ghana for nasi OCA omu Jumaden John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, no Obu Jumadin Kesi Pantino, Obia Kase, John Dramani Mahama, or yet a Juma Papa Pan or Ghana has into the form. So, question we no message say, oh, the answers Nina no be who came or comment section honum, na Messumakin Kanina, the Amo or Ghana to go for way. And a question Kessia, maybe Sa Ghana Funina, Finance Minister and the Bank of Ghana, Muye Jumadian, or for my call, 9 and 7 our Ghana to be Matia.
National capital market, but we should assess our options.
And the domestic market should be an option.
The domestic market we should prioritize.
Address the problem.
See from the IMF supported program why 2027 is critical because of the maturity clustering of our debt from the way it's been restructured, both from the domestic and then the external. So once the market reopens from 2027, we'll be able to roll over those debts.
Our Director Middle East and Africa Sovereign Ratings at Fish, Thomas Garrow, says Ghana is unlikely to tap international capital markets under the current IMF terms.
That means that we do not identify a path to default. When you are rated into T and below range, that means that we as a rating agency do identify a credible and potentially rapid path to default. This is no longer the case in Ghana following the restructuring of the external debt that is still ongoing, also following the restructuring of domestic debt in 2023 with the domestic debt exchange program. So given that we do not identify this credible path to default, and given that Ghana has, I mentioned the weaknesses, but Ghana also has some strengths in terms of rating. This is why we decided to assign B-. Then, whether we do consider that Ghana will tomorrow get back to the international capital market, that's not the case. As long as Ghana is under the existing IMF program, Ghana will not issue on international capital markets, basically because of the conditions that are attached to the existing IMF program. But your initial presentation, you showed that potentially Ghana could get back to the international capital market in 2027. That's a possibility. The IMF program will be over. It's up to the administration of Ghana to decide whether it wants to extend the existing program, whether it wants a successive program. But technically speaking, Ghana could issue in 2027.
All right, joining me on Zoom, Head of Finance at Melbourne Capital, Nelson Kujo Kwagweji. Good afternoon to you. I want to first start off with credit ratings upgrade. Out
of 4, when a good news, if governor of the Bank of Ghana, Central Bank Ghana, I say, a bank, Ghana, I say, out of 4, when a good news, if you're Makachi, I'm assuming in Ghanatube, Obia Kase, John Dramani Mahama, or Bon Home Modern Pan, ye kakran ye discovered the actual a value of the Ghana cedi against the dollar. The for see an 10 to 12 Ghana cedi obi aka wase ma me so be gina nyina brɛ ɛwɔ Ghanatube the for mamu remfin se mobile like no ma subscribe no ma share no ma hit notification bell no so ma se na be ya abri bia drop your content a wo wonya ntempa no atwe metia mo the for aha ɛna me de nsɛm nyina be si ɛwɔ Ghanatube si ade makra mu nyina me da mu nyina se